tell about the time that I met Sal Martirano. Sal Martirano was Salvatore Martirano. Martirano was an experimental music guy at the University of Illinois. When I was about 17 years old and just starting to program the control data 1604, my dad and Dominic Skippertis got an invitation to go see this guy who wanted to build a new electronic musical instrument of some kind. Didn't really know what it was going to be, but he had a grant or something, or had some sort of advance notice that he could get a grant. And so he got these guys together. He didn't know the pitches of musical instruments. I remember he was living behind the IGA over on Kirby. And so we all went over to talk about building the Salmar. What turned out to be the Salmar later. We didn't know what pitches equal tempered scales were, so I ran off some programs to compute equal tempered music pitches. Gave them to him. He gave me an autographed copy of L's GA, which was Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, with each line processed through a different kind of distortion filters and stuff. Interesting LP. I don't have it anymore because there was this guy, anyway, who used to be his neighbor and borrowed it. Never gave it back. I couldn't understand why anybody would want to do it. I understood all the different distortions, he even had single sideband where he detuned the single sideband and used that as a distortion. I thought that was all bad fidelity. I couldn't understand why anybody would do that on purpose. But I was still young and not attuned to the electronic music, experimental music experience. Many years later, 40 plus years later, I ran into Martirano, who became his wife. She was like, he was embarrassed he didn't introduce her or anything because some young violin student was hanging out there when we went over to visit him, and then years later when I ran into her, said, "Oh, I knew your husband because I went over there and living behind the IGA, etc., etc." And she said, "Oh, I was there." I took a look at her, and it was that same young music student from all those years ago. Not as young anymore, but still playing the violin. Dorothy Martirano. Sal, as they say, had large appetites, which is to say he had a lot of women and a lot of drugs in his life. Maybe a lot of alcohol too, I don't know about the alcohol. I had a chance to meet him after I built the first computer-controlled music synthesizer, and then another one with programmable waveforms and stuff, GCS. Showed that at some show. They had some show at the University of Illinois, and they invited us to participate because I guess they didn't, I don't know why, just because they usually were kind of snobs about it and didn't invite us to participate, but in this case they didn't feel they had a fill enough show or something, so they invited us. Then I got invited to a party afterwards where Sal didn't show up. He stayed up in his room for a long time while all the students gathered. The students roundly embarrassed and criticized and belittled me, and I just left early. I was living, of all things, living out on Sherwin Circle, which is a place that's named after the same guy that I'm named after, I think. He was a solid-state physicist, Chalmers Sherwin, who developed, did a lot of the development work on the LED and stuff. And my dad named me after him. And he had a farm. And I assume the farm was someplace out South Ray Street. That's where they named the streets after Sherwin. Dr. Sherwin, and I'm named after Dr. Sherwin too. And here I was at a party that I got roundly run out of on a street named after the same guy I was named after. So anyway, that's the story I wanted to tell about meeting Sal Martirano. Circa 1967, I guess. 66, 67. So, that's the story, buddy. You can go back to sleep now.